On December 21st, 2022, I said that I wanted to read this book before the end of that year, and that was De Cavernicula a Cristiano. And honestly, I did not finish reading this book. In fact, I only got up to page 42. This book starts on page 7. So that means I only read 35 pages in this book. And that's the only book that I attempted to read in 2022. So the question is, am I a failure in Spanish? Am I a failure? Did I fail in 2022? And I just want to share with you some of my thoughts and share with you some other things. My name is Franklin, and this is First Thousand Hours. So the nice thing about actually having this challenge at the end of the year is it forced me to actually help myself get back into reading in Spanish in a more serious way or halfway serious way. And so I made progress. And so I'm going to celebrate the fact that I made progress, and making progress is not failing. Making progress is actually going forward in my goals. And so I'm very thankful for that. And the other thing that is so important to remember when you're on this language learning journey is not only to look at the progress that you made maybe in a space of a few days, but then to also be able to look back on a bigger picture to see more of the progress you've made. And if I add 35 to the other pages I've read in Spanish, that would be 35 plus 4,167 pages, meaning that I've read at least 4,000 or around 4,202 pages in Spanish. I've continued to make progress. That is not failing in Spanish. That is moving forward in Spanish. And I want you also to be excited about your progress. And I have momentum now, or I have some momentum, I would say, going into 2023. Now, honestly, I have not read that much in Spanish in 2023 thus far. I have taken a little break. I've taken more than a break, to be honest. But when I first started this year, I was on a plane and I was in Florida. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that in just a moment. But I am looking forward to reading a whole lot more in Spanish. And I will have an upcoming video talking to you about my big Spanish goal for 2023. Now, one cool thing that happened when I was in Florida is that I took an Uber to take me to the airport, and when I was leaving to go back to where I live in Oklahoma, and I was on a 53 or so minute ride on this Uber ride. And when I got into the Uber, I started talking to the Uber driver in English, and that person told me, no, I don't speak English. He said something like that. And it was interesting because he actually spoke Spanish, and he was actually originally from Cuba. And so what I ended up doing was I spoke to him in Spanish, and for the majority of that ride, we were able to have a conversation in Spanish. That was a blessing. Now, did I struggle with some of the things I said in Spanish? Yes, I did. Did I have to ask sometimes questions to make sure I understood what he said in Spanish? Yes, I did. But we still had a conversation. And so I'm really thankful to continue to be able to use Spanish in a real world context. And I think it can't get any more real than talking to an Uber driver basically probably around 95% in Spanish. Now, if you are wondering, like, how can I actually do something like this? How can I actually read a book like this? How can I get further in my Spanish comprehension? One thing that I did, and I will probably continue to do, is I use the Google Translate app on my phone to look up meanings of individual words, which was helpful. But I also did something else that maybe you might not be aware of, and I was able to use the Google Translate app to even translate entire paragraphs and translate those into English, even with this paperback book. And so what I was able to do was use the camera section in Google Translate, which is really Google Lens, and it was able to translate the text into English. I seek to first read a passage in Spanish without the use of Google Translate. But if I get stuck and I want to go a little bit further into the meaning and understanding that, then I will use Google Translate. And I don't see any problem with that because I want to use tools that are going to help me get further faster. I was also thankful about reading this book because I encountered new vocabulary. I encountered different things. It was good for myself because I expanded my vocabulary, and I see that there are still things for me to learn in Spanish. I still have things I can grow in this language, and so I definitely want to continue learning Spanish in 2023. If you want further help in comprehending Spanish, I recommend that you get the Day 1 Spanish Comprehension course for beginners I wish I had, that my friend and I have worked on, that you can get right now at comprehendspanish.com.